First question, Jonathan Fagan.
Hi, Rafael. What was your reaction to moving up as much as you did, and how would you evaluate the top picks of this draft? Let's say the top four, considering that's where you always seem to draft.
I don't know about always, but actually maybe literally always, but probably won't last forever. Sorry, I got sidetracked on that thought. You're asking me to evaluate the top of this draft, is that correct?
Yes, and what was your reaction when you got the news?
I think I was happy. So I got it in kind of I was actually on a flight from France to the US, and my Wi-Fi cut out. So the first thing to come through were random texts, so I could tell we moved up, but I couldn't tell to where, and I couldn't tell how. I couldn't tell which pick. So it took me a little while to figure it out. So maybe I was a little more confused than normal. But yeah, no, generally happy. And then, I think the top of this draft is strong. I was just in Europe watching a couple of kids who are, very talented, and there are some guys here in the States and in Australia. So I think the top of this draft is pretty strong.
Any follow-up, Jonathan?
No, I'm okay. I noticed you said you were in France, but there's, I guess, a lot of players in the top four come out of there these days.
I guess so. I mean, one of the cool things about our game and our league is this truly become a worldwide league. And so, so I do think it makes evaluating talent more difficult, because just like I think a men wasn't super easy for people to evaluate, because he came from OTE, which no one had done before. And so similarly, I think this year there's going to be quite a few guys coming from backgrounds that are a little bit different. And it does make the evaluation process a little harder, but it doesn't mean the players are less talented.
Thank you. Thanks, Tracy.
Bose? Ben? We'll move on. Vanessa Richardson.
Hi, Rafael. Hope France has been fun. How are you?
France was, I don't know about fun, but it's beautiful. Paris is a beautiful city. I was there for a few days, and I'm good. Thank you.
That's awesome. From just kind of a broad perspective, new practice facility, amazing young core. Now you have the number 3 pick. Just how exciting is this chapter in your career as a GM, as there's so much potential and so much possibility?
I'm super excited. I can answer that part. I think, right now it's kind of, there's just a lot of work to be done. So I'm kind of more focused on that than the rest of it. But yeah, I do think, we like our team, and we like the position we're in. And we think that, if we did nothing this summer, that we would be a better team next year, just because of the growth internally of all of our young players, as well as getting some of the guys who are injured back, hopefully, and able to play. So the possibility of adding another young talented player through the draft, or through trade, or however that ends up working out. Yeah, we're excited about that possibility.
Thank you.
Adam Spollen.
Rafael, can you kind of compare the top of this draft to the last 3?
No, only because I haven't thought it through. I think last year's draft was a different draft than we'd seen in a while, just because there's so much attention just focused on one guy. And that wasn't the case in the 2 drafts before it. And I don't think it'll be in the case this year. So maybe in that sense, I think this draft is more like the draft 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and a little bit less like last year's draft.
do you see like the high end prospects in this draft as there were in the last few?
Yeah, I mean, time will tell, right? Like, it's so hard to evaluate 18-year-old players, and generally the top few picks are, 18 at most 19-year-old guys. So it's just really hard, and it's unfair to the players to say that they will or will not be anything. But there are really talented guys in this draft. I do believe that.
Michael Scotto.
Hey, Rafael, hope all is well, brother. Just wanted to ask you, you kind of mentioned about like if you guys didn't do anything, how you guys would have growth on its own as a team because of your young guys maturing. So like with that in mind, I don't know if feasible is the right adjective, but is it in a sense to add another young guy, especially another high lottery guy, when you already have a lot of really young, promising guys already on the roster?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's for sure feasible. I mean, and we would do it, right? Like, I think, yeah, I think the simple answer is yes. I guess to give you a little bit more context, there is no rule that like Amen didn't start the vast bulk of the games this year, which was a change for us because Jalen started immediately and Jabari started immediately. But I loved Amen's progress. I don't think that the only way to develop is if you immediately start and get handed 35 minutes a game. I don't even think it's necessary to play right away. Like, I think that there have been Hall of Fame basketball players that had to work their way up. There's been a lot of them. And so yeah, I think I do think minutes will be more crunched for us next year than they have been in the past. But honestly, they were crunched for us last year, and both Amen and Cam kind of fought for, earned, and ultimately got their minutes. And I don't. I don't think there's only one way to develop young players. I don't think there's only one way to build a roster out. So we definitely would. We definitely would draft someone and bring them into the fold if it makes sense.
And just to follow up on that, given that you have this third overall pick, and I believe you could trade up to, if you wanted to, theoretically 5 first-round picks. Given the roster where it is, are you more or less open to that idea of packaging a ton of picks and trying to acquire a star type of guy, given where the roster is and some of the progress you've seen from some of your young guys that you've already drafted?
I don't think I'm not trying to, it's not a cop out. I just think it's true. I don't think we're either more or less willing. I think, my job is to take every phone call for sure if someone's got an idea, but also to make it and talk to every team about every possibility and try and figure out if there's something that we think makes us a better team and organization, both in the short term and the long term. And so I'll do that. I did that 3 years ago, last year. I mean, there's really only 2 times a year that the market in the NBA gets a little bit liquid, kind of around the trade deadline and around the draft. And so we need to make every phone call and have every discussion, and we'll do that. But we certainly won't do any deals that we don't think are really good for us. And and we'll just balance it all out and make the best decisions we can.
Thank you.
Lashard Binkley.
Hello, Mr. Stone. So does moving up from 9 to 3, does that make it more likely that you're willing to keep that pick? Does it really change your mind one way or the other, or is it still just kind of part of the whole process?
No, I think it's part of the whole process. I think the caveat to it always was we'd be willing to move it if we got something that was worth us moving it, but at the same time valuing the player we think we'd bring in. So probably at least a slightly better chance that we'll like the player more at 3, probably a much better chance that we'll like the player more at 3. Or at least sometimes that's not true. A higher likelihood that we'll be very interested in a player at 3. That's probably the better way of saying it. But also potentially maybe others will too. And so maybe other teams will be more aggressive in trying to trade in for that. So I think it just all balances out at the end.
Thank you.
Jackson Catlin.
Hey, Rafael.
Jackson.
You mentioned earlier that you think this team could improve even if you made no changes this offseason. So how much does your draft philosophy and your overall evaluation going into the draft, going with, fit versus best player available, change, if at all, after a season in which the team just went 41-41 and saw a lot of internal growth?
Yeah, I mean, we've been pretty fixated on best available talent. I just think it's so hard. It's so hard to make it in the NBA, let alone make it let alone kind of survive a bunch of years, let alone not just have a good career, but be somebody who like drives winning in an impactful way. That it's, I think for me and in my job, I guess I'm just not confident enough in me to be able to like point out that in any given draft, this point guard, this shooting guard, this small forward, this power forward, this center will be really successful. And so I think if we become confident that a player has a chance to become special or very successful in our league, we'll just that would be the player we would take, as opposed to fixating on how he fits with our current team.
Michael Shapiro.
Hi, Rafael. I wanted to ask you about your coaching staff in this scenario. It seems like last year they did a lot to bring Amen and Cam along. Does the group you have in place give you confidence that a rookie can get brought up to speed in the appropriate time?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a really good coaching staff. I think Ime does an awesome job. He was really hard on those two guys, which I think was really good for them. And if we bring somebody in, I think he'll do the same thing. And we have a ton of confidence in our G League program, and I think it really, really helped Cam. And I would not hesitate to utilize that kind of as a way of developing the guy as well.
Ben DeBose.
Sorry about the connectivity issues earlier. Rafael, how much of a tier jump is there from pick 9, which was the odds slot going in, to top 3 where you ended up? You touched on that a little bit earlier, but just how significant is the bump that you got today? I
mean, the honest answer is it depends on all these other teams. So like, I don't know. Our board tends to look kind of sort of like other teams' boards, but even, but not identical. And so, yeah, I the real answer is, I don't know. I don't know where everybody will end up valuing every player. I would guess it's going to be a pretty sizable jump for us, but it's hard to know.
Chancellor Johnson.
Hey, Rafael. Obviously, a couple of years ago, you and this organization elected, you can call it a choice, or if you want to call it a gamble, to kind of prioritize draft picks over maybe players at the time in the James Harden trade. Today, we saw it kind of go in your favor. Just kind of think about that process and where you guys, when you made that decision to a moment like this, what kind of comes to mind to you for you in general?
I don't know. I think I felt really confident in that in the process then. So I don't think a whole lot's changed for me. I mean, I'll walk you through the thinking at the time, which was just that we want to win championships, and that really hasn't changed for us. And so we didn't think that there was a trade that set us up to do that better than than trying to get a lot of picks. Like that's really simple. Like, and I guess just organizationally, we're not afraid to take a little bit of risk and some pain to give ourselves a chance to be really special and really good. We're definitely, I want to make clear, we are not really special or really good right now, but that is our goal. And our goal is to get there as quickly as we can and to stay there as long as we can. And so looking back, I guess 3 years ago now, at the decisions we made, it was that with those goals in mind, I think the decision was actually was, at least for me, a very, pretty easy one. And I think by the time we ultimately ended up making kind of, it wasn't just one trade either, but a kind of a series of trades. At the time we made the very first one, I think everybody internally in our organization was completely aligned on the rationale for why and kind of, the process for how to go about it.
Quick follow-up to that. Have you ever thought about the patience the organization has also shown as well? Because when you make a move like that, there's also not a guarantee that you might be able to see some of this through. Have you given that any thought at all?
I mean, I knew I was going to be patient. I think you're asking, have I thought about the fact that Tillman was willing to be patient as well? And the answer is, yeah. I'm thankful for it, but to his credit, he never really wavered. Like, it doesn't mean that it was all good times, that there wasn't some real pain along the way, but I think we kind of, we understood what we were doing and we went about it. The one area that, like, so it's not like he wavered and had to be talked back into it, but the willingness and to understand at an early time in his kind of ownership tenure, the whys and the strategy behind it, and to allow me to execute on it, Tillman definitely deserves full credit for.
We'll take two more. Brian Bearfield.
Mr. Stone, you said in the exit interviews that you were happy with where your team was. You were happy with the players that you had at that time when you all were doing the evaluation of team needs. Did that change today with the way that you all were able to get into the top three? And how early will you get with Coach Udoka to start evaluating this?
It didn't change. I still, they haven't played any more games. So I still like my team. I'm talking to Ime in about, 20 minutes. We're gonna have dinner, but I don't think we're talking about the stuff. I don't think we're gonna be talking about the stuff you maybe think we're talking about. I think we're just gonna catch up because we haven't seen each other in a couple of weeks. And then, I think the fact that I like my team doesn't mean I don't have a job to do. You don't kind of say, hey, I like my team, I'm just going to go to bed for 6 months. You still talk to everybody, do all the work, and make sure that standing pat is the right thing to do. With the reality being that you never stand pat. We're going to draft someone, or we're going to trade the pick. There's kind of only two options. And so, so we'll do, we'll do all the work and try and figure out what's best for us. And Brian, if I just completely missed your question, because maybe I did, I apologize. Just ask it again.
Yeah, what I was asking was, I know the players that you have on your team, and at the end, you all didn't know your draft status at the time. So do you say, well, do we want to add another small forward? Do we want to add another center? Does that change now, knowing that at that point in time, you didn't know if you were going to be in this top three spot, but now that you are, does those needs change as far as getting that player that you were probably that you may have been looking at?
No, we feel really good about our team, and so it doesn't change at all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Last question, Adam Spolin.
It's been a while since a team has traded a top 4 pick. I was wondering if you had any ideas of why that is, and did you get any offers over the last few years where you thought that you were like close to maybe accepting it?
No to the latter one. But but we did talk a lot, if that makes sense. And so, but no, I wouldn't say that we got really close in any of those years to moving the pick. That, you know, yeah, no, I'm pausing because I'm just thinking back to make sure I didn't. No, I don't think we got particularly close, but you know, like there were definitely some conversations where people suggested that maybe they do something that was really interesting, then it didn't work out, they went a different direction, something like that. So, yeah, anyway, no, we didn't get particularly close. And then in terms of why picks haven't moved as much recently, I mean, I have no idea. You know, a lot of it is where you're at and what you're trying to accomplish. And, you know, I do think that like, we definitely, like, you should always be open to trading stuff. And we have been the last couple of years. But also our team didn't look like it does today. And so maybe it's more likely today. I just don't know. And I don't know why others haven't moved top 4 picks either. I think it's very specific to the team that initially has the pick and then the team trying to climb in to get there. So and honestly, there are teams that I would look from the outside and be like, they should absolutely be trying to trade into this draft. And maybe they don't agree. Maybe, you know, so like it's all eye of the beholder stuff. So yeah. I wish I could have given you a better answer. There's a lot of I don't knows in there, so I apologize.
Thank you, Rafael. We appreciate your time. And thank
Thanks,
you to all
guys.
for joining.
Take care.
Thanks, Tracy. Thank you, Rafael.
Thank you.